Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Bob's Bakery. I'm your host, Bob the Baker. Today we're going to be baking an American classic, a homemade apple pie. A warm, flaky crust surrounds tender, perfectly seasoned apples and makes for a lovely treat any time of day, hot or cold. And if you're feeling especially fancy, you can add a scoop of your favorite ice cream for an owl treat. I'm going to show you the entire process, from the crust, to the apples, to the baking, to the eating. And I'm sure I'm going to enjoy that part. I hope you'll all follow along, and if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and commenting. And if you followed along with the recipe and made your own apple pie, do tell me how it turned out. I'd love to know about all of your successes. Thank you all very much for watching. Let's begin. Alright everyone, making a pie is as easy as pie. Let's begin with the crust. Pie crust is a very versatile recipe. It can be very simple, but you can also experiment and customize it to your personal tastes and preferences. Today I'm going to be demonstrating a very simple margarine-based pie crust. Alright, to begin with you're going to need to get 2 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. I've gone ahead and measured it into these nice measuring cups. Add that to your bowl. All of it. Go ahead and add a teaspoon of granulated salt. Go ahead and put that in the bowl like so. Now, the next step of the process is going to involve gathering some cold water. I'm going to go and briefly fill my little Pyrex cup here, and then I'm going to add some ice so I can set it to the side to chill while we're working on the rest of this recipe. I have about 2/3 of a cup of ice water here. You're going to need at least half a cup. You could need as much as a cup. You can never say for sure, so just if you measure a little extra, that's okay. Now, you can use just about any kind of fat for pie crust. This time I'm going to be using margarine, but you could also use butter, lard, vegetable shortening. You're going to need to add 1 cup of your fat. If you're using butter or margarine, that's going to be roughly 2 sticks. If you're dealing with lard or vegetable shortening, just measure out 8 ounces. You can see I cubed the butter. That's going to make the next step of the process a little easier. Go ahead and add your fat into your flour salt mixture. And using a strong fork or a pastry cutter, cut the fat into the flour salt mixture. You're looking for a mealy, grainy texture. Alright, that is the exact texture we're looking for. Now, we're going to begin to slowly drizzle in our 1/2 cup or 2/3 cup of ice water. Next, we're going to slowly drizzle our ice water into the flour, salt, and fat mixture. Don't do this too quickly. You do not want to oversaturate your crust. Figure on adding maybe a teaspoon of water, or a tablespoon of water, or somewhere in there at a time. And while you're doing this, continue to work the dough with your fork or your pastry cutter. You're looking for the dough to start to clump together and form larger balls. Ideally, you'll want your dough to form one large ball. You're looking for a texture roughly similar to that. Thicker, lumpier, and more mealy. The next step of the process is going to be to take your dough and turn it out onto a well-floured surface. I've gone ahead and added about a tablespoon of flour. I think that's going to be more than enough for my dough. I can add more though if I need it later on. Now, turn out your mixture onto your workspace. And don't be afraid to flour your hands, just in case your dough is sticky. And using your hands, go ahead and gently work the dough until it comes together into a big ball. You will end up with quite a mess while you're doing this. Go. Finish working the dough. Finish working the dough. And form it sort of loosely into the shape of a bowl, so you'll be ready to cut it in the next step. Something kind of like that. Go ahead and take a pastry cutter. Go ahead and take a scraper and cut your bowl of dough in half. Now, take each half of the dough bowl and shape it loosely into a disc. You can do this with your hands, or you can put it down on a surface and press it out like a biscuit. Either way, you want to end up with something that looks like that. We're going to repeat that process with our other half of the dough bowl. And make sure that your two dough balls are roughly the same size. One of these is going to be your top crust, and one of these is going to be your bottom crust. Alright, and there I have two perfectly formed pie crust discs. I'm going to wrap these in cling wrap, and I'm going to put them in the refrigerator for somewhere between 2 to 4 hours so that they can chill. Ideally, you'd leave them all night, but I don't want to wait that long for my pie. And then we're going to go over here to the fridge and put these in to chill. Alright, after you've prepared your crusts, the next step in the process is going to be to make the apple filling. You can't have an apple pie without apple filling. You're going to need roughly 2 to 3 large apples. In this case, I chose these nice Gala apples. But, I mean, you can use any kind of apple in an apple pie. Some people prefer Granny Smith. Some people prefer something sweeter like Fuji. You could even use Red Delicious if that was all you had to hand. Now, you're going to need to add a cup of sugar to your apples. And you have a few options here. You can go with a whole cup of granulated white sugar. You can go with a whole cup of granulated brown sugar, or you can do like I've chosen to and use half a cup of each. Go ahead and add the white sugar and the brown sugar, and then stir your apples so that you get everything coated with the sugar. There we go. Next, you're going to add your seasonings. I'm using cinnamon, nutmeg, and ground ginger. Go ahead and add that into your mix. Just sprinkle it over top gently. Try to cover all the apples with the spices. And then go ahead and give it another stir. Alright. At this point, you're ready to transfer your apples into your pie crust. We're almost done. Before you know it, you're going to have a tasty treat. Alright. After you've prepared your apple pie filling, we're going to need to get the crusts ready for use. Go ahead and pull out the discs that you prepared earlier and stash them in the fridge. They should be nice and cold now. Now, we are going to roll these out so that they take on more of a pie crust shape. Go ahead and fetch your rolling pin. Apply a dusting of flour to your work area because your dough might stick. There we go. Get that nice and floury. Set down our disc of dough and begin rolling it out. Now, you want to work from the inside out toward the edges. And every time, after a little while rolling, turn your dough 90 degrees, then continue to roll. Ideally, you want your crust to be like between a fifth of an inch in thickness and a sixth of an inch. You want it pretty thin. Yeah, that's starting to look right. Continue flouring it and rolling it. And then we're going to need to get our pie dish ready. Let me make sure I've got this to roughly the diameter of my pie dish. That looks perfect. I'm using a Pyrex pie dish, but you can use any pie tin or pie dish. They can even be gotten in the kitchen supply section at a grocery store for very low price, both in tin foil and reusable. Go ahead and pick up your dough gently and transfer it into the pie dish. make sure that all of your dish is covered. You might have to use your fingers to help smooth out any irregularities. Go ahead and press the dough gently so that it clings to the sides of the container. And you're good to go. Alright then, the final step in the process of making your pie is going to be assembly and baking. Now, I think today I'm going to make a lattice crust. And essentially what a lattice crust means is you take strips of your dough, kind of like this, and you lay them out across the top in a basket or lattice style. As you can see, I've already gone ahead and taken care of that ahead of time. You're going to want to make sure that you protect the edges of your crust. When baking a pie, the center of the pie is going to take a lot longer to bake than it will the edge of the crust. And if you're not careful, that's going to result in your crust burning. Now, you can get these things called pie shields at grocery stores or cooking supply stores, but if you don't have a pie shield, or if you're just in a hurry, you can get the same effect with strips of aluminum foil. Go ahead and place those very carefully and gently around the edge of your crust. As I said, the goal here is mainly just to protect it from the heat of the oven. When you've got your pie crust fully protected, you're ready to go put it in the oven and bake it. Let's go bake a pie. 1. After you've given your oven a chance to preheat to 425 degrees, it's going to be time to add your pie. Go ahead and slide that onto the center rack. Try to get it roughly in the middle of your oven. Go ahead and close that. And we're going to leave that to bake.